All right, so welcome to my Amazon KDP saturation mindset video. And while that might seem like a mouthful, you're going to see why I'm calling it this in just a second as we go through this video. So it's not going to be your typical, you can do it if you believe in yourself type of video. We're going to make this very specific to KDP. And also we're going to pair this with actionable information and steps that you can take as well to get past a ton of mental barriers when it comes to the thought of there being too much competition. So this moves us into what I'm calling my saturation funnel. So this is actually super important. I don't think I've ever really spoken about this before, but these are the stages that people are going to go through, and these are the reasons why people quit. So what we're going to do in the next slide is to give you that actionable information that you can take so that you can understand what these stages are that pretty much a lot of people go through, but they don't know how to sort of break past those barriers to push forward and actually make sales on KDP. So the reason why I'm presenting this the way that I am is I'm going to show you all the reasons why people quit. So you can see that ultimately, if you're doing things correctly, that the amount of people that you're actually competing against is actually very small, which is probably a somewhat controversial statement. But I want you to think of it this way. At the start here, we have the visibility and competition to KDP. Okay, so if you look on YouTube or anywhere online about making money online, you're gonna. This is not an untapped, unknown side hustle or anything like that. There's channels that have got millions and millions of views. It just exists. People know about it. So this factor alone is one of the reasons why I'm not very good at this type of thing. But let's just assume this is a door and that's the exit or whatever. So this is one of the first reasons why people, a huge chunk of people, and think of it this way, we're filtering down through this funnel. Now, this is one of the first reasons that people quit is because there's just this immense, overwhelming amount of competition and the visibility. Everyone knows about it right now, like it's nothing new. So that moves you into the group of people that don't quit, and then they continue and they look into publishing books on Amazon, a little bit more detail, which tends to go down that sort of YouTube route, Facebook, looking online in forums, and there's just too much information to digest, and there's so much going on across YouTube and everywhere that you can't take this one piece of information or this one route. You end up getting frustrated, your mind goes completely crazy, and you don't take action upon anything because there's too much contradicting information. So obviously what happens from here is that a huge percentage of people, what they will do is they will quit. From there, if people do decide to go through with publishing, maybe they're following their favorite KDP channel, maybe they don't follow anyone at all, what they tend to do from there is they go ahead and they create 1 to 3 books, and they don't make any sales with those books. So they go ahead and they quit. And this is typical. I've spoken to probably hundreds of people over the years who've been doing this, and this is the stage that people go through. So let's assume that people do go ahead and they create more than 1 to 3 books. What happens from here is that they don't know the finer details now. They've gone past this. They've heard that they have to publish a few more books to actually start making sales, but they don't know how to identify niches that have got buyer traffic going to them, which is one of the most important factors when it comes to making sales. So people don't understand. They publish more and more and more books, and they don't see any sales. So of course what happens is they go ahead and they quit. So hopefully this is making sense what I'm getting at here. So from there, people don't have any idea when they do select the correct niche, when they've done the niche research, they don't know how to position their book correctly using keywords. So they end up not getting the visibility in the niche that's got traffic going to them. They do this, they don't understand where they are on Amazon or how to get there, and they end up quitting. So let's assume that people do understand how to position their book, but they've no idea how to actually get the positioning for their book when it comes to ranking and actually maintaining their ranking with ads. Are they spending too much money? Are they not spending enough money? When should they start lowering their cost per click? All these things people don't know how to do. And typically at this stage, people start spending a shit ton of money, and they don't like that. They get demoralized and they quit. Let's say that you go through all of this, you're going to get to the point where you're actually competing with other people who have reached this. So what's happening here is that you're going from the amount of competition you have is going less and less and less and less and less and less until you get to this point where you are competing with other people who have also reached this point. But even then, for some of us, for a lot of us, that's not going to be enough if we don't see consistent sales. And a lot of people will eventually, who start seeing sales trickle in, they don't see enough, so they end up quitting. So the main part that we want to get to is consistently doing this without getting demotivated. This is one of the reasons why I've been in this business for a long time, And in the last 4 years, I've managed to maintain full-time income from this. So this is useless information without pairing it with some actionable steps. So let's go through this now. So since we have a limited amount of time and the actual interactions that I have with people one-on-one is going to be non-existent in a YouTube video. So we're going to touch upon this now, the solutions for what I've just outlined, but just want to direct your attention again to the bonuses that I'm giving away with the fraction worksheet generator. If you didn't watch my review for that for whatever reason, which is obviously fine, what I'm going to be doing is putting together a live workshop that is going to go through all of this and more when it comes to publishing your book successfully. Okay, so that bonus is only going to be offered during the launch period of the fraction worksheet generator, which is going to end on the 28th of March. Curious to know why I'm getting so many questions about this bonus that I'm offering this time. Just stick to the end of the video and we're going to cover that in a little bit more detail. And if you still want to pick up the software and secure your spot for that, you can go to the description and purchase through me. But let's talk about this. Let's talk about the solutions here. So we have all this visibility going to KDP and we think to ourselves, oh, fuck, man, like we have to, let's try drop shipping. Let's try Etsy. Let's try eBay. Let's try Shopify. Let's try something else instead of this. But the reality and the solution here is acceptance. Whether you like YouTube channels, side hustle channels, Facebook groups that talk about publishing, the amount of visibility is going to be huge to anything that can make money online. That is the reality, whether it's drop shipping or Shopify or whatever it is, like FBA, all these different ways of making money online. There is going to be a ton of visibility. So the first thing you have to do is that you have to accept that no matter what your pursuit is going to be, there's going to be a shit ton of visibility to it. So here's a quick sort of mental hack that's kept me going over the years. And that is that the reality comes down to it is that if you can see new books, independently published books that are making sales that don't have any reviews on them, my mentality behind this has always been, if someone else can do it, there's absolutely no reason that I can't do it either. So let's just do a couple examples here, and keep in mind this is a more of a mindset video. We're not going to go into too much detail, but it's super important that people get this, right? You have to get this. So for example, like typically when software comes out, people get super worried about the saturation issue and things like that, and it's a case of, for me, it's always been the case, like there's literally no point. For example, we have this fraction workbook here, which has already become a #1 new release. It's not mine, but it just goes to show what the mindset and the attitude has to be is, fuck it, like I'm going to do it and I don't care about the competition. Trust me when I tell you that you have to say to yourself, fuck it, I don't care, I'm going to do it. And to give you an example from one of my advertising campaigns for a new book I've just released, this book here is in a niche that has had a stupendous amount of visibility, like beyond any of the workbooks and math books. Like this is beyond that. Like this is something like every YouTuber has talked about, and I think some of the videos have got like literally 1 million views on side hustle channels. So the visibility to this type of niche, do you know what I went into this attitude with? I said with the attitude of, fuck it, I'm going to do it anyway, but I'm going to do it right. And I did, and it's ranked very well. It's selling organically. The ad campaigns are absolutely crushing it as well. And that's just the reality here. So we're gonna elaborate on this further in just a second so that I don't mislead you into thinking that every single book you publish is going to make sales, because that's obviously not the case. So that's the mental resolution that we have for that step here. And that moves us on to too much information to digest and take action upon. So as I said before, there's a ton of information out there. Sometimes, and people even said in my Facebook group recently, I don't know where to start, who to listen to, what to listen to. And without being distasteful here toward any content creator, because there's a lot of good content creators out there, a lot of bad ones as well. But if someone is too good to be true, I don't think you should be following advice from them. That's as simple as that. Now, the second part that I would say here to that is that you should probably stick to maybe just 1 or 2 people that you're following, that you trust. And the thing here is that what people like to do is that they like to take someone's method, and then when it doesn't work, they like to move on to the next thing. And when that doesn't work, they move on to the next thing, they move on to the next thing, move on to the next thing, to the point where they have so much information in their head that they don't know what to do. So they just end up quitting. Okay, so that moves us on to the people that do get past that step and start taking action. They then tend to go ahead, they create 1 to 3 books, they don't make any sales. Now, what is the answer to this here? So we need, in my opinion, is that if we're going to focus on a certain niche, that niche has to lend to the opportunity to create multiple books. So that's why I'm happy to always pretty much promote the software that I do, is because for the most part, a lot of the software allows you to easily get into a certain niche where you can create multiple books. Example being the fraction worksheet generator, where you can obviously target the different types of books and the different types of age groups as well. So what I found in this section here, if I can find my pen quickly, is that what a lot of people do when it comes to this is that they pick niches. They pick like, I do like a journal, then I'll do like a word search, then I'll try a coloring book. Now, for me, what worked for me was focusing on one niche, which is primarily coloring books, and then just kind of going for it, and then getting to that point where if it didn't work, and then I moved on after like, I think I maybe produced around 20 coloring books. And then at that point, on the sort of third attempt at it, that's when I put everything together and then started seeing those sales. Okay. So the other reality here is that we have an unawareness. We have been brainwashed into thinking that a low amount of books is going to make us sales just because we followed a hot niche, or because we purchased some software, or because we're following research tools. And you've got to be aware of these stats with anyone that's showing you, including me, that the success rate for books, especially even if you're doing things in an optimal way, the success rate will be low. So typically for me, I think I'm looking at around 1 in 5 books. Okay, so it's not going to be universal. Some people will see 1 in 2, some people will see 1 in 20. But obviously you want to follow a proven method to actually increasing your chances. But what I'm saying here is that creating 1 to 3 books, you're not going to make a full-time income, you're not going to make a side income, you're probably not going to make anything from producing that many books. So you have to be aware of the stats, and that is going to help you emotionally break through those barriers when you don't see sales. And you need to understand it is so normal to not see sales. Okay. But of course, let's say that you do break past that and you're not seeing any sales. You've got 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 books. You've been doing this for a year, 2 years. You're not seeing the success that you want to, and you're obviously thinking about quitting, or someone at this point would have quit. So one of the main things here is that people don't research niches, and the amount of people that have sent me their books that don't have any kind of identifiable niche because they think the book will sell. It makes no difference if you think a book will sell. None at all. You have to go factual. Research on Amazon. Research what is working. Research books that are relevant to your niche, and research the BSRs of those across the first page. That is all you need to do when it comes to identifying a niche with buyer traffic. Okay, a lot of people miss this step and overcomplicate it. And what I find that people do, again, because of the wealth of information that's available online, is that they have these crazy criterias where they have to have X amount of views, or it needs to be under 100k BSR for this type of niche and this niche and this niche. And while I tend to agree that the BSRs do need to be under a certain amount for certain niches, you don't need to overthink it, because what you're going to do is you're going to go onto Amazon, you're going to see 3 books in like a dog coloring book that have a ranking under 20,000, and then you're going to see 6 books that have a ranking of around 500,000. You're going to see 2 that have a ranking of 1 million, and you're going to go, well, I don't know what to do. Here's what you should do. You should publish that damn book. And also, when it comes to the reviews, I honestly take absolutely zero notice of how many competitors on the first page have how many reviews, or how many or whatever amount of 5 stars and 4 stars and all these things. Ignore it. Just ignore it. Publish the book. Let's say that you do get past this and you do your research and you understand the niche has probably got buyer traffic going to it. So what's going to happen at this point for a lot of people is that they don't know how to position their book correctly using keywords, and they end up getting no visibility, which again means no sales, which means, of course, quitting. So blindly picking keywords. A lot of people, keywords matter. Like, listen, Amazon is a keyword-based search platform. If you want a pink iPhone case for an iPhone X or whatever it is, that's what you search for on Amazon. You don't type in some fancy shit. You type exactly that. And the same should be taken into consideration when you're picking the keywords for your book. So typically what you can do to research which keywords, I always preach use the search bar. What have I done here? I always preach using the search bar and using your main keyword in the title for your book somewhere, and then using other keywords in the subtitle. So we're going to go into this in much more detail in the live workshop. If that is something that really holds you back, I'm going to explain that in full. So let's say that we do get to that point here. We understand how to find the buyer traffic. We understand how to use the keywords in our title, and we know how that's going to give us the visibility, because customers are going to be searching for those search terms. So the next problem that we're going to have, which is a real mental screw, is not knowing how to get ranked and maintaining that ranking with ads. So there is a problem that people have, and that is an emotional attachment to their BSRs, which come from running ads. So you have to understand fully that you are probably selling your book between $6.99 and let's just say $8.99. Okay, so running ads and making a direct profit, and even if you do make a direct profit, it's going to be a very small amount. And yes, some people will obviously make some money, but a lot of these strategies that revolve around running advertising campaigns for a long time, they pertain to higher content books. So 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, $23, right, etc., etc. They have that room to invest into it, to put their money into ads. So here's what you need to do. You need to make sure that you're not running ads just to lower your BSR. You're here to make money. Now, the way that you're doing that is by tracking your keywords when you get ranked, and also by having a launch plan to get your book ranked. So you launch your book onto Amazon, you start monitoring where your keywords are being ranked, and then you monitor all of this using certain metrics in your advertising campaigns to weigh up after maybe 1 or 2 or 3 months if you want to continue working on that book. So you get to the point where you make money primarily organically whilst maintaining it with the ads. Okay, so we're maintaining it, maybe making a little bit of money with ads, maybe losing a tiny bit of money. And that's the mentality that we have to go into. Our mentality, or for me anyway, is that we don't just spend money to get a low BSR. Like, yes, it feels nice. It's kind of like a sort of a dopamine hit for a lot of people to see a low BSR or a #1 new release. It feels good, so they keep running and running and running. But at some point, you have to make the money back. You have to make money from it. So for me, this section here is crazy important because we need to be talking about this. We need to talk about budgeting, how much you're going to be spending, how fast you should be reducing your cost per click, how to do that. And like I say, what I'm going to be doing in the workshop is recording the workshop and doing it in a kind of slideshow way like this so that we can go through everything step by step, explaining absolutely everything when it comes to this section especially. It's going to be super important. And what a mess I've made of this screen here. But hopefully you're understanding what I'm getting at with the mentality side of things here. So let's assume that you've reached this point here, which has become a complete mess on the screen, but we're down here. So at this point, you should be making sales and you're just going to be competing with others who've reached this point. So this, at this point, should be making you sales. You should be making some form of income from this, whether it's some money, unlikely to be a full-time income, which obviously is a rarity in general. Now, what is going to happen is that you don't always need to be better. There is the notion that you have to create something better than the competition to make sales over them. Like, yes, it is a great idea to create something that offers something different, offers something better, that has a higher quality, that is going to help you make sales. But what I found is that it's not always the case. You can just go through these steps above and you'll start seeing sales if you get your book positioned into the niche and you get that visibility, which means you will take some of the sales. So like I say, it doesn't necessarily have to be the case, but if you want to go to that next level, then there should be that better offering. And this is one of the ways that I've managed to break past that barrier of just being stuck at this level here where I'm competing with others, is that we want to have that better offering where it makes sense to do so. Okay, so let's assume that you're getting to this point. Now we're at the end goal here. You need to be consistently doing this without getting demotivated. And I won't lie to you, like I have been, like would you call it the trajectory of how the motivation should go? Like, it's always going to be a case of like, you're super motivated, you get demotivated, and if you break past all these barriers, it's going to be a case of like this, it should go right. And this screen has become the worst thing I've ever seen in my entire life, but it's going to be an up and down job, right? So we need to be consistently doing this without getting demotivated. And like I say, I've been there. I recently got to this point here. Again, but it is like a mindset thing. You just have to say, fuck it. You have to keep going with the strategy and eventually you do break through. I'll give you just a very quick example if you're still watching this screen, which I know is probably destroying your eyesight at the moment. But for example, I spent a lot of money recently on one of my coloring books and I released it. I was super excited and it's doing okay. And then I published a case study coloring book and it failed. Like, if you've watched the coloring book case study, it failed. I've cut the loss on that one, and I said no more money being lost. We cut that one. It's a failure. Okay, so we have one that's okay, we have one that's failed completely, and then I moved on to the next one, which was a slightly cheaper one, and it's going very, very, very well at the moment, is what I will say. So even me, like I get this, but you still have to, even if you feel that sort of that darkness and that sadness and that tired feeling of not making sales, you still have to even for me, even for most people doing this, you still have to break past that mental barrier and just stick with something that you know is going to work. And eventually it just does. And this is like this end part here. If we can still follow the screen here, this is the cringy mindset thing, is that you have to ask yourself, like, why are you even doing this? Like, for me, this is everything. Like, I make a full-time income from publishing, and the reason behind it is because this is what I want. This is a lifestyle that I want. There's no other option for me, really. Like, I don't want to do anything else. I feel passionate about this, and I feel like it opens up tons of opportunities. There's the growth potential. You have the potential to exit from this business by selling your account. You have the potential to create a brand, and all these things are super fulfilling. And honestly, this is the biggest question you can ask yourself, is just to ask yourself why you are doing this. And once you actually establish why you're doing this, then you'll be able to go through without any problem all of these steps. You will just go past these steps once you know why, understand what your purpose is for doing this, and you will get past this, and you'll get to this point where you are obviously being successful. And honestly, I can't bring myself to look at that screen for much longer, nor can I keep talking about mindset stuff for much longer either. So the reality here, and again, this is a mindset thing, because this is what is taking you away from the things that really matter, and that is stripping back filler before it matters. So what a lot of you guys are doing is that you're focusing on these really fine details of publishing before you have any right to do so. Like, I'm not saying that they won't add up and make a difference. I'm saying that if you're not making sales and you're focusing on the following list, then they're only going to make a percentage of difference if you were making sales in the first place. If you're not making sales, these are not going to be the determining factor behind making sales. So back-end keywords, again, people are obsessed with that. For me, I just think of relevant keywords, put them in the box. That's it. Like, that's as far as I go with that. And again, like, this is mindset stuff, because if you're looking at things like complex ad strategies and thinking, well, if I try so-and-so's manual campaign or so-and-so's like 10-month launch plan, like, it's all going to just get you eventually, and you're not going to stick to something, and you're just going to get stuck in this rut of looking for the next great thing, etc., etc. And eventually you're going to stop because you can't understand why none of this is working for you. It's because it's not what matters. What I think, what I see has happened to a lot of people is that they don't have success with simple automatic campaigns. So what they do is that they then try some really strange or different manual campaign. They get like 5 clicks and then make a sale. And they're like, oh my God, like, this is working so well. This strategy works for me. The reality is that they then go on and run with this strategy, and then over time it continues to it doesn't perform over time. Okay, so there's a big difference between just running a few advertising campaigns in a short period, and a big difference between running them in the long run. So it have to be something that you can maintain for a prolonged period over the course of 3 months. And if that is an expensive manual campaign, for example, it's probably going to lose you money. Okay, so complex ad strategies, I have a very simple approach that works very, very, very well. It's so simple. And it just revolves around auto campaigns and then a little bit of adjustment and budgeting from there. So another thing is A+ content. Like, yes, you should work on it. Yes, it will probably make a difference. You can see books that sell like crazy without any A+ content. It's not a necessity for making sales, I can promise you. Yes, these things are going to add up over time. You should focus on them. But, I've seen some people putting $300 into A+ content recently. It's crazy. There's no need to do that. Again, categories is another thing where they pick the categories where they can get ranked. Yes, like, that will work at some point, but again, like, it's not what your focus should be on. And then there's research tools. And if you've watched my channel before, you know that I just don't use them. I have used them for a long time, and then when I switched away from using them, I started seeing much more success, like doing my research on Amazon, only following factual data. It's just I use some, but even then, like, they can end up being a distraction as well. So it's okay. It's okay if it helps you, it helps you. But for me, like, I think it's a distraction. And again, it is a mindset thing, because you can't let these distractions get in the way of decisions that actually are factual. Okay, so like I said, you're worrying about shit that's only going to make a few percentage of difference if you would have made sales with the book anyway. Okay, so again, like I say, this is a mindset thing. You have to focus on the things that are going to give you the sales, the shortest path between publishing the book and making sales, right? All of this stuff in between, you have to kind of block it out or not put the emphasis on it. So hopefully that makes sense. And we're going to cover this in a much more detail in the live workshop that I'm doing. And this is different to like case studies and live chats that I've done before, is that we're going to have this kind of ongoing crash course discussion with Niranjan chipping in every now and then with his early education knowledge. So it's really going to work not just for people creating early education books, but for people publishing in general. It's going to be a back and forth. It's going to be like recorded as a huge type of course that I'm eventually going to sell in the future. And I'm so excited to offer this to people because I'm going to be working on this very hard for the next couple of weeks. So a lot of people don't know what's going on with this, and I get a lot of questions in the emails, but it's basically I'm doing this live KDP workshop that is going to be recorded. We're going to cover everything in this video in much more detail and everything else that goes into publishing successfully. And what I'm going to do inside of this is to reduce the information that you would probably get completely brain fucked from on courses. We're going to take all of that away. We're going to focus on what really matters and get onto a path that is going to give you the quickest route to making sales. Obviously, no one can guarantee you're going to make any sales, but I truly believe that what you're going to witness will be the best thing for that. And this I'm going to try and this I have sort of penciled in toward the middle of April. We're going to try and do this on a weekend so everyone can attend it. If you can't, then yes, it will be recorded and it's going to be sent to you so you can watch it back. It's going to have all the slideshows so you can treat this as your course. Like I said in the last video, it's structured to force you to produce more books, better books. You can do them in early education. If you buy the fraction worksheet generator, then you'll have a ton that you can actually go ahead and get started with after that workshop. Step-by-step phases for you to create the book and then go to the marketing, etc., etc. Everything, we're going to go into the mindset of creating more books. We'll talk about budgeting and finding niches and everything like that. And if you have early education questions, they can get directed at Niranjan. The guy is a wizard when it comes to early education, like 15 something years in that niche he's been working in. So that's crazy that we're going to have the ability to combine all of this experience together in this like crash course workshop. Super excited. Like I say, there's a lot of experience going on here. And this is going to help you build up your early education brand. If you're not doing the early education stuff, it's still going to be applicable to any type of content that you are creating, because you're going to have the ability to ask questions throughout this that are specific to your situation. So you're going to get that framework and of course that input from you as well, where we can give you the bespoke information too. And like I say, I'm going to answer as many questions as possible during this back and forth workshop. So even if you're not building on your early education books, no matter what niche that you're in, since this is going to be a back and forth with questions answered. If you're doing anything coloring books, activity books, then we're still going to give you this structure and framework that you can work with to go forward and hopefully start seeing more success on KDP. So like I say, I'm offering this during the launch period only. After the launch period, I'm not going to offer it this time because the value behind this is going to be something that I will sell as a separate product, and I will sell that very proudly as well because of the value that people are getting here. The launch period for this is the 25th of March, 11 a.m. Eastern time to March the 28th, 11:59 p.m. And just to go over the OTOs again quickly, if you haven't seen the pricing structure for these apps, they work in a certain way where they go up after the launch period. So during the launch period, the base version of the software is $47, then it goes up to $97. The OTO 1 is $67, then the OTO 1 goes up to $97 after the launch, then OTO 2 is $197 during the launch, and then after the launch it's $297. OTO 3 is $67, then goes up to $97. If you want to watch my full review, you can go into the description below. If you want to just buy the app and secure your spot for the workshop, you can go ahead and buy through me. You just need to send me a screenshot of your receipt to the email below as well, which is going to be chris@chrisraydog.co.uk. Yeah, I can't wait to do this. Hopefully this video has helped you. Hopefully this gives you an insight into these bonuses as well. If you enjoy the live chats, which I've had a ton of positive feedback over, this is going to be the next level from there. You're going to absolutely love it. Anyway, going to see you there, and that's it for this video.